more curious than anything as to how it's gotten this bad. I mean, I'm in active duty in the military. I have about a little over $40,000 in student loan debt that I acquired, most of which was before I decided to do ROTC. My first 2 years of school, I wasn't affiliated with ROTC or the military, any of that. But I think a lot of listeners don't know is with FAFSA, if you're until you turn 24 years old, I believe it's 24, they look at your parents' income to determine eligibility for everything from loans to grants.
Yeah, I know.
My parents made too much money, so I didn't qualify for anything. And even though my parents weren't paying for anything, I wasn't really, my relationship with them at the time wasn't that great. In order to pay for school, even though I had a full-time job, I had to take out private student loans my first 2 years of college.
Yeah.
And it ultimately got to the point where I just couldn't afford to do it anymore, and that's when I decided to go the ROTC route. And even with that didn't cover everything. I still had to take out additional loans while in ROTC.
Wow.
And so even though I'm on active duty, and this is not untrue of a lot of people, there are people that I serve with that have student loan debt, and they're in the military.
So you asked how it got here, Chris. Let me give you a quick history. When Thomas Jefferson started the University of Virginia as the first free college in the United States, and he wanted everybody who could go to college to be able to go to college for free. Abraham Lincoln established more than 50 land-grant colleges where he took federal lands, large chunks of federal land, and gave them to states to start colleges where there was enough land that they could work the land, either farming it or cutting timber or whatever, and allow people to go to college for free. So we had two major initiatives for free college in the United States. The land-grant college one was particularly successful. My mom graduated from Michigan State University, a land-grant college. She went to college in the 40s. And she paid for her college. Her father died when she was 13, and her mother just worked as a clerk in Charlevoix. So she got no support from her mother. She paid for her college tuition by working as a lifeguard in Charlevoix in the summers. That was in the 40s. By the 60s, it was in California, college was absolutely free. A lot of my friends went out to California to get free education, but I went to Lansing Community College at Michigan State. And it was cheap. I knew nobody who had student loans. I didn't graduate from either school, but my wife did, and from one, and she worked her way through college as a waitress at a Howard Johnson's, no student debt, and I did as a busboy and a dishwasher and a waiter for one day at Bob's Big Boy as a minimum wage disc jockey. And pumping gas and changing tires at an Esso station or an Exxon station, one or the other, and in East Lansing, Michigan. And you could do that back then. In 1980, when Ronald Reagan came into office, 80% of the cost of tuition, of the cost of putting a person through college, 80% was paid for by state and federal grants, and in some cases by colleges having endowments or the land grant system. And so the tuition that you paid only represented 20% of the actual cost of an education. Reagan put Bill Bennett in as the head of the Department of Education. Bill Bennett, who had run for president in the 1980 primaries on a campaign of ending free and low-cost education in the United States and ending the Department of Education. 30 years later now, 30 years of Reaganomics, it's flipped upside down. Only 20% of the cost of college is paid for by state and federal governments and local governments and the colleges themselves. 80% of the cost of an education is paid for with tuition. So college has become 5 times more expensive than it was for my generation, number one. Number two, during the Bush administration, they reformed, in quotes, the bankruptcy laws to say it used to be the only thing you could not discharge in bankruptcy was taxes. It was the only thing that you could declare bankruptcy all day long, but you still owe your taxes. They added to that student loans, which immediately made student debt, the best kind of debt that any bank could get. The Reagan administration had also, the Bush administration had also changed the rules with regard to accreditation for for-profit colleges. So now, basically, banksters were starting colleges just to get the student loan debt because it was so profitable and it can't be discharged. And they're literally creating derivatives on student loan debt now. There's $1 trillion worth of student loan debt. There's $100 trillion or more worth of derivatives out there based on it, the way that they were doing it with mortgages in 2007. And so that's why the amount of student loan debt has quadrupled in the last 10 years is because of the policy changes that were put into place by Bush, or the Bush administration.